are getting older and want to come home. They'd make a deal, U.S. officials believe, in exchange for amnesty and positions in the government.
But many Afghans object to an accommodation with the Taliban. They don't want to return to harsh Islamic laws and suspect the United States is simply looking for an excuse to broker a deal and then exit this long, costly war.
We Afghans won't have a political settlement, but we are not willing to abandon what we have achieved in the past 9 years, for example, in terms of democracy, human rights, women's rights, free media, and free speech. And I think President Karzai is not reaching out to the Taliban in Pakistan. He's surrendering himself to them.
Richard Engel, NBC News, Kabul.
It's amazing to have that from Richard for our show. I'm very grateful. When General Stanley McChrystal resigned last month, President Obama explicitly stated that the general in charge would change, but the strategy counterinsurgency would stay the same. But what is Plan B if Plan A doesn't work, or it doesn't work fast enough, or frankly, if it doesn't work at all? I'll ask the head of the Regional Southern Command in Afghanistan, Brigadier General Ben Hodges, next. And what happens to the billions of dollars that America spends in Afghanistan? Some of it goes here. A tour of the nice part of town, including some never-before-seen footage. Surreal isn't quite a potent enough way to describe it. Please stay tuned. In Kandahar, the province has authorization to have 87 judges working in the justice system. 87. You want to know how many are actually on the job? 9 judges for a province of like 1 million people. So if you live in Kandahar and you want justice, frankly, the Taliban is offering much quicker service than the government can provide. Not necessarily better service, but quicker. It's a weird fact, but it's one of the types of weird facts that is going to determine if Afghanistan falls into Taliban control again or not. General Ben Hodges is the top American military commander in Regional Command South, which includes Kandahar, which of course is the Taliban's spiritual home. When people talk about Kandahar, one of the things that we sort of say and don't detail really, at least in civilian news coverage of what's going on here, is what that means for Taliban governance. I mean, we know there's a shadow Taliban governor here, but are they doing dispute resolution? Are they doing, punishing people for theft? Are they?
Yeah, there is a. If you think of the insurgency as an argument for the loyalty of the people between the Afghan government and the Taliban. The Taliban is not a popular uprising. I mean, they don't do anything. They haven't built a school. They don't fix irrigation systems. They don't do any of that. But they sure scare people. And they do dispute resolution very quickly. And they're not seen as corrupt.
Yeah.
So for an average farmer, he's trying to say, is my life better with the government if I don't trust the government? If the face of the government is the police and they're taking money from me every time I go anywhere, it's not worth growing these wonderful pomegranates because I can't even get them into Pakistan to export. Is my life a whole lot worse with the Taliban?
Right. If they're not corrupt, but they're brutal.
Right. And that's the problem. They're quick. I mean, they do dispute resolution very fast, but it usually is, Sharia law. People get killed, physically punished, and of course, there's no human freedom. At times, the Taliban outlawed kite flying. So they're not popular, but the government has got to provide a better choice.
Yeah.
Otherwise, people are not going to take the risk. That's what it's about. I mean, if they're seen supporting the government, if they don't feel secure, the Taliban are going to come in that night and kill somebody or hurt them or wreck their house.
But it's almost like that's the central thing that makes this feel almost impossible, because if the Taliban, when they took power in the 90s, it was here and in other places, it was in part by saying we're not going to be corrupt, we're religious, we're students, and the corruption of the government isn't serving you. We can serve you, we'll be brutal, but at least we'll be honest. If they're still offering that, and we're trying to make an Afghan government that is not corrupt to be a viable alternative to that, but our very presence, by virtue of the fact that we've got to spend a ton of money, and we're foreigners, and we've got to protect ourselves and all this stuff, our influence here, our presence here is inherently corrupting, just because a lot of money flows everywhere we go. like it's not 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's 2 steps forward, 2 steps back.
I don't think I buy that. I don't accept that we are inherently corrupting. I know what you're saying. There's certainly that much money coming in, the potential for that, and I have no doubt that some money has made it to the wrong people. But I've met enough Afghans who have demonstrated those kind of qualities, whether they're in the military, police, or government, who are brave, who take huge risks, and are committed to having an Afghan society that respects its culture and traditions, and can provide some basic services. And the requirements are really relatively simple as you look around. But it really is up to the Afghans. I mean, we'll never have more capability than we've got this fall.
I know this is a difficult question, but if over the next year it essentially doesn't work to establish better governance in Kandahar, if the police efforts, the policing efforts, security efforts don't combine to create enough space for Afghan government to step up in a way that is working, I don't get the sense that there's a plan B. Is there a plan B? Is plan B just more time?
There's no reason why this shouldn't be successful if the Afghans do their part. I mean, I've never met an officer that didn't want more capability, so I would never turn away more engineers or more military police, but we have enough to do what we have got to do in Kandahar, assuming that the Afghans step up and do their part.
If they don't?
We will have given them the best chance they've ever had.
And that's the key to understanding the war right there. No plan B. We're giving them the best chance they've ever had at a government. But it's their own gig. We can't do it for them. We'll be back with U.S. troops on the front line, footage we have never shown before when we come back. I would like you to meet someone. Viewers of the Rachel Maddow Show, I would like to introduce you to Captain John Thomas. He is a company commander in charge of a number of very dangerous checkpoints ringing Kandahar City. At checkpoint 7-4 overlooking the Arghandab, he commands a platoon of 19 Americans alongside 30 Afghan police. And Captain Thomas is very, very impressive. So this is a watchtower.
Yes.
This is
a 240 Bravo machine gun.
240 Bravo machine gun. This would be manned usually by ANCOP officers or by U.S.
It's partnered. So we'll have one each.
And the road that we're overlooking here goes from where to where?
This is the main road that cuts from southwest of Kandahar City all the way up into Highway 1, which is dead center of Kandahar City.
Okay, so Panjwai is...
Panjwai is all the way down that road, yes.
Okay, and Panjwai and
Zari.
And Zari are two regions where there's been a lot of fighting, a lot of insurgent activity. So what's the mission of this checkpoint and of the other 3 checkpoints that you lead?
So within my area of operations here in Subdistrict 7, each of these checkpoints is strategically placed on one of the main routes in and out of the city with the purpose of interdicting or disrupting the freedom of movement, as you said, of the insurgents either coming into Kandahar City or going out. So that way we can kind of be that outer gate so that if they want to come in, they've got to come through us first to allow that outer cordon of protection, and that way the inner city police, the AMP, the ANA, the gyro folks can focus more on developing and establishing their inner security. So it's more of an augmentation force initially.
In terms of this checkpoint, and earlier today we were at a police substation. Police substation has a different mission, which is that they're static, they're there to be a resource to the community and also to be security. You're here to stop traffic, check it before you allow it to go through. What are you looking for? How do you know if a person that you're stopping is trouble?
Well, you never know, but there's indicators, and what you try and look for is, multiple military-age males, or a vehicle that looks like it's weighed down, or a vehicle that's acting erratically, or some immediate indicators that should trigger the person to stop them and search them. Beyond that, it's just to not set a pattern and be random and just say every certain truck, every blue truck, or every red motorcycle, will stop for this period of time. So that way it's just a random, even swath across the board to create the effect that at any time a person that wants to come into Kandahar City understands that they have the capability of being searched.
Now, where we are, I mean, you can see from the landscape here that we are on the edge of the city. But this is a populated area. We're not far from Saraposa Prison.
Correct.
Big prison, a lot of market areas and
yes.
Street vendors and stuff and shops there. So I imagine that this is going to be pretty disruptive to the people who live here who aren't bad guys.
That is a common discussion. As soon as we move in, we bring all the local elders together and we say, okay, hey, we're so-and-so, we're here to do this, and what are your concerns? And it's almost always the very first question is, well, what is it going to do to our normal patterns of life?
Yeah.
And so that immediately is a discussion and a relationship starting right there to say, hey, our purpose is not to disrupt your life, but to prevent other folks from disrupting your life. So as long as we constantly stay in contact with each other, and the ANCOP is the key part of that, because they have the heartbeat of